The emptiness was a weight Christina couldn't name, a dull ache pressing against her chest as if the world had forgotten to keep spinning. She felt it that humid summer afternoon in Miami, weaving through the bustling streets of South Beach, her phone buzzing relentlessly in her pocket, with messages she refused to read. The ocean sparkled in the distance, but her eyes were clouded by a truth she wasn't ready to face. At 38, Christina was a celebrated architect, her career defined by sleek modern buildings that reshaped city skylines, yet at home, her heart felt like a blueprint gone wrong. For 12 years, she'd shared her life with Jonathan, her husband, a freelance photographer whose vibrant images captured the world's beauty, but seemed to have stopped seeing her. They'd met at an art gallery in Wynwood, where his stories of far-off places and a smile that promised everything swept her off her feet. Now that smile seemed reserved for someone else, and Christina was about to uncover who. That morning, a call had turned her world upside down. Lucy, her college friend and now a hostess at the upscale Ocean Breeze restaurant in Coral Gables, had called, her voice hesitant as if holding a grenade. "Christina, I need to tell you something. Jonathan made a reservation for tonight. Table for 2, 8 p.m. It's not the first time. He's been here before, always with the same woman. I wanted to tell you for months, but I didn't know how." Christina's heart stopped for a moment. Her phone nearly slipped from her hand as she processed the words. Lucy wouldn't lie. Not her, the friend who'd shared late-night study sessions, laughter and dreams in architecture school. The truth hit like a punch, but Christina held the pain at bay. For now. She thanked Lucy, hung up, and stared into nothingness, the sound of South Beach's waves, a faint echo of her inner turmoil. Jonathan had said he'd be working late, editing photos for a last-minute project. The lie was so polished that Christina almost believed it, but the pieces were falling into place. Late nights, an unfamiliar scent on his shirt, messages he deleted too quickly. She didn't want to be that woman, the one who snoops, who doubts, but the truth was screaming now. With a resolve she didn't know she had, Christina planned her next move with icy precision. No confrontation at home, no scene that would let him dodge with rehearsed excuses. She wanted to see it with her own eyes, to let him know she knew, all while keeping her dignity intact. That afternoon, Christina prepared as if for battle. She chose a navy dress that hugged her frame with understated elegance, a delicate silver necklace Jonathan had never noticed, and makeup that masked the shadows of a sleepless night. The mirror showed a woman who looked unbreakable, but inside her heart was splintering. By 7:30 p.m. she arrived at Ocean Breeze, its sleek decor and soft jazz creating a cruelly romantic atmosphere. Lucy greeted her at the entrance with a look of concern and solidarity. "You sure about this, Christina?" she asked, guiding her to a discreet table tucked behind a palm with a clear view of the dining room. "I'm sure," Christina replied, her voice steady, but her hands trembling as she clutched her purse. She ordered a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, more to keep her hands busy than out of desire, and waited. At 8:05, Jonathan walked in. The man she'd loved, with whom she'd planned a life, crossed the threshold with a smile that wasn't for her. He wore the black button-down she'd bought for his last birthday, adjusting his watch with a nervous tick. Beside him was a woman Christina didn't know, tall with long chestnut hair and a red dress that radiated confidence. Their intimacy was unmistakable, the way she touched his arm, the way he leaned in to hear her whisper, laughing softly. Christina felt the air leave her lungs, as if the restaurant had run out of oxygen. The woman wore gold hoop earrings that glinted under the chandeliers, identical to ones on a credit card statement Jonathan had dismissed as a client gift. The lie stung almost as much as the betrayal. Christina watched as they sat, heads close, smiles conspiratorial, as if the world around them didn't exist. She wanted to scream, to throw her wine at their table, but something held her back. Not fear or weakness, but pride. She wouldn't be the hysterical wife, the one who begs. Instead, she pulled a napkin from her purse and a pen, writing in steady letters, "Hope the dinner's as good as the story you told me this morning." She folded it carefully, signaled Lucy and said, "Give this to Jonathan, just him, and if you can, let me see his face." Lucy hesitated, then nodded, a flicker of admiration in her eyes. "I've got you." The moment unfolded like a slow-motion scene. Lucy, with the ease of a seasoned hostess, approached their table and handed Jonathan the note, murmuring something Christina couldn't hear. He frowned, puzzled, then unfolded the paper. Christina watched every shift in his expression, curiosity, then recognition, then raw panic. His brown eyes widened, scanning the restaurant frantically as the woman beside him asked something, clearly confused. Christina waited until his gaze locked onto hers. For a split second, time froze. She held his stare, heart pounding but face composed. Then she raised her glass in a silent toast, a gesture that spoke louder than words. With deliberate calm, she stood, left cash on the table, and walked out, her heels clicking on the polished floor, head high, the Miami night shimmering outside. Jonathan didn't come home that night. Christina stayed up until 2 a.m., sitting on her balcony overlooking the city's twinkling lights and the distant ocean. Her phone buzzed with his messages. "Christina, let me explain. It's not what it looks like. Please pick up." Each word was a fresh wound, but she didn't reply. She was done with his excuses, his fragile justifications. For years she'd trusted blindly, ignored the signs, believed his promises. Now that trust was shattered, and something inside her broke too. But in that pain, something new was stirring, something she couldn't yet name. The next morning, Jonathan appeared, eyes sunken, shirt wrinkled, looking diminished by his guilt. "Christina, please, let's talk," he began, voice hoarse. She cut him off, her tone cold as the coffee cooling on the table. "Who is she, Jonathan?" He hesitated, staring at the floor. "Just a friend. From a photo project. It doesn't mean anything." Christina let out a dry, humorless laugh. "You don't buy gold earrings for a project friend. Try again." He ran a hand through his hair, nervous. "It was a mistake, Christina. A moment of weakness. I swear it's nothing. I love you." The word love sounded hollow, like an echo in an empty room. She looked at him, really looked, and saw a stranger. "How long?" she asked, voice steady but heart tight. He swallowed hard. 4 months. 4 months, a third of a year of lies, of nights she thought he was working, of moments she planned surprises, like the weekend trip to Key West that never happened. "Do you love her?" she asked, almost against her will. He paused, and that silence was answer enough. "I don't know," he mumbled. Christina felt something harden inside her. "Then we're done here." She stood, grabbing her purse. "I've got things to take care of today, don't wait up." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Christina, please, don't do this." But she was already at the door, not looking back. That day, Christina called Paul, a longtime friend and divorce lawyer. They met at a cafe in Coconut Grove, away from prying eyes. Paul listened quietly as she recounted everything, her voice calm in a way that surprised her. "I want a divorce, Paul. I want you to handle it. No talks, no negotiations, I just want it done." Paul nodded, serious. "It's a big step, Christina. You're sure?" She looked out at the ocean, waves crashing with a strength she envied. "I'm sure. There's no going back." In the days that followed, Christina retreated into a cocoon of silence. She ignored Jonathan's calls and texts. The apartment, once a home, now felt like a battlefield, littered with memories of laughter and plans that no longer existed. She felt shattered, but amidst the wreckage a spark of freedom flickered, a whisper of something new. The balcony of Christina's apartment felt like a fragile sanctuary against the world's weight. Miami's skyline glittered below, blending with the distant crash of waves and the hum of a city that never slept. But that night, Christina felt detached from it all, as if Miami's vibrancy couldn't reach her. Her phone, now on silent, piled up with Jonathan's unread messages, each vibration a reminder of his betrayal, a knife twisting in the wound. At 38, Christina had always prided herself on her strength. As an architect, she built structures to withstand time, storms, and chaos. Yet now, her own foundation felt like it was crumbling. For 12 years, she'd believed her marriage to Jonathan was one of those structures, a carefully designed project rooted in trust. Now it was just a facade, beautiful on the outside but hollow within. She allowed herself a moment of weakness, tears falling as she held a cold mug of chamomile tea. But even in the pain, a spark of defiance whispered, "You are more than this." In the days that followed, Christina threw herself into a mechanical routine. She woke early, diving into her projects with fierce focus, as if perfect blueprints could tame the chaos inside. Jonathan lingered in the apartment, sleeping in the guest room, a chasm between them. He tried to talk, to explain, but she shut him down with a look or a curt, "Not now, Jonathan," before heading to work, leaving his words hanging. Each encounter tested her resolve, but she refused to break. A week after the restaurant incident, she met Paul again, this time at his office in Brickell. The 40-year-old lawyer, with his calm confidence, listened as she outlined her decisions. "I want the divorce papers ready as soon as possible," she said, her voice firm but her eyes tracing an unspoken pain. "No alimony, no fights, just my freedom." Paul adjusted his glasses, jotting notes. "Got it, Christina. I'll make sure it's fair. You sure you don't want mediation? Sometimes talking can—" She raised a hand, stopping him. "There's nothing to talk about, Paul. He made his choices. I've made mine." He nodded, respecting her resolve. "I'll start the process. Keep records of anything relevant. Texts, receipts, proof he used shared funds for— you know." Christina knew. The earrings, the credit card charge, the lies about late nights. She'd already begun collecting evidence, not for revenge, but to protect what was hers. Back at the apartment, Christina avoided Jonathan's gaze. He felt like an intruder in her space, and each attempt he made to close the distance pushed her further away. One night, he tried again. "Christina, please listen. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I ended it with her. It was a mistake, nothing more." Christina was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for a dinner she wouldn't eat, the knife's rhythm steady against the cutting board. "You ended it because I caught you, Jonathan. Not because you wanted to. That's not love, that's convenience." He fell silent, and she kept chopping, the sound filling the void between them. When she finished, she tossed the vegetables into a pan and turned to face him. "You can stay in the guest room until this is settled, but don't expect me to be who I was." He opened his mouth to respond, but she was already leaving the kitchen, his guilt left behind. The pain was a constant weight, like a backpack full of stones she carried everywhere. At work, she maintained a professional facade, but her colleagues noticed the change. "You okay, Christina?" asked Maria, her assistant, with a worried glance. Christina forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, just tired." But at night, alone on the balcony, the mask fell. She cried silently, not for Jonathan, but for the woman she thought she'd been. How had she been so blind? How had she missed the signs? The self-blame was almost as painful as the betrayal. Then came a call that shifted her days. It was Lucy, the friend who'd tipped her off about Jonathan. "Hey, Christina, want to grab drinks tomorrow? Like old times. No fancy restaurants, just us, some cocktails and good talk." "What do you say?" Christina hesitated. The idea of going out, of laughing, feeling like a betrayal of her pain. But Lucy's warm voice won her over. "All right, Lucy, let's do it." The next night, they met at a laid-back bar in Wynwood, with colourful murals and a view of the Miami skyline. The place buzzed with life, live music mingling with laughter. Lucy, with her easygoing charm, pulled Christina onto the dance floor despite her protests. "You're not here to overthink, Christina. You're here to live," she said, spinning her to a salsa beat. For the first time in weeks, Christina laughed genuinely, a sound foreign to her own ears. They danced, sipped mojitos, and reminisced about college days, stealing a poster from the university library to decorate their dorm. For a few hours, Christina forgot the weight she carried. Sitting at the table, flushed from dancing, she looked at Lucy and said, "Thanks, I needed this." Lucy squeezed her hand. "You're stronger than you think, Christina, and you deserve way more than that guy gave you." Those words lingered, a seed planted in parched soil, waiting for rain to bloom. That night, back at the apartment, Christina made a decision. She needed time away, not just from Jonathan, but from Miami, from the memories suffocating her. She opened her laptop and, on impulse, booked a solo trip to Costa Rica. She'd never traveled alone before. It was time to rediscover who Christina was without the weight of a broken marriage. As she packed, a mix of fear and excitement pulsed through her. For the first time in years, she was choosing herself. The decision to travel alone to Costa Rica wasn't just a whim. It was a quiet cry for freedom, a need to break free from the invisible chains tying her to the past. As she packed, the sound of Miami's evening rain tapping against her balcony, Christina felt her heart waver between anxiety and fragile hope, like a candle flickering in the wind. At 38, she'd never traveled solo. For 12 years, every adventure with Jonathan had been a joint plan, though lately those trips felt more like obligations than celebrations. Now folding a light sweater and tucking a fresh journal into her backpack, she sensed this was more than a trip. It was a journey to reclaim the woman she'd forgotten amid work and unkept promises. At Miami International Airport, the hum of travelers and loudspeaker announcements felt distant, as if Christina were wrapped in a bubble of introspection. She passed through security, handed over her passport with a practiced smile, and sat in the departure lounge, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. She glanced at her phone, now locked, to avoid Jonathan's persistent texts. His latest messages, full of apologies and promises to change, were stones thrown at a cracked window, and Christina knew giving in would only cut her on the shards. The flight to San Jose was long, with a layover in Houston that left her drained but oddly refreshed. When she landed in Costa Rica, the humid air and scent of tropical flowers greeted her like an unexpected embrace. Christina had planned a loose itinerary, a few days in San Jose, then Arenal, and finally the beaches of Manuel Antonio. In San Jose, she wandered vibrant markets, tasting gallo pinto and fresh mangoes, the city's energy a stark contrast to the oppressive quiet of her Miami apartment. At the Jade Museum, she sat quietly, scribbling in her journal, "Why did I silence myself? When did I stop loving me to love someone who didn't see me?" The words poured out raw, each one lightening the load she carried. In Arenal, she joined a yoga retreat by the volcano, learning to breathe with purpose, to let thoughts pass like clouds. At first, her mind kept replaying Jonathan with that woman at Ocean Breeze, mixed with memories of happier times that now felt like lies. But slowly, under the guidance of a kind instructor, she found peace in the spaces between thoughts. One afternoon, hiking through a rainforest trail, she met a group of women travelers who welcomed her warmly. There was Lee, a 29-year-old graphic designer from Shanghai, traveling to heal from a breakup. Emma, a 45-year-old Australian, married but traveling with friends to stay true to herself, and 3 others, each with stories of resilience. They invited Christina to dinner under a starlit sky, and she hesitated but joined them. Over plates of ceviche and glasses of passion fruit juice, Christina laughed harder than she had in months. She shared her story, the betrayal, the note at the restaurant, the solo trip. Lee squeezed her hand. "You're brave, Christina. Not everyone faces pain head-on and chooses to rebuild." Those words lit something inside her, like a match in the dark. The group became her temporary family. They explored waterfalls, laughed through a chaotic cooking class, and danced at a local festival where paper lanterns floated skyward. In Manuel Antonio, Christina found peace on white sand beaches, the turquoise waves washing away her doubts. During a lantern ceremony, she wrote, "I forgive myself for not seeing. I love myself enough to move forward." As the lantern rose, carrying her words to the sky, a weight lifted from her shoulders. This wasn't just the end of a marriage, but the start of a new relationship with herself. She'd spent years making Jonathan the center of her world, molding herself into the perfect wife, forgetting to be Christina. Costa Rica was teaching her to love herself first, to know her worth. On her final days, Christina embraced small adventures, swimming in a hidden lagoon, chatting with a local artist about the meaning of murals, laughing at herself when a monkey stole her mango. Each moment rebuilt her confidence. When it was time to return to Miami, she felt transformed, carrying a new lightness. On the flight back, a faulty seatbelt in economy led to an unexpected upgrade to first class. Beside her sat a man, about 40, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that held their own story. He wore a navy blazer, relaxed yet polished, reading a book. Christina, flustered when her dead phone wouldn't charge, fumbled with her bag. "Need a charger?" he asked, his voice warm with a Miami lilt. "I've got one." She blushed. "Thanks, I forgot mine." He handed her a cable, and when her shaky hands struggled, he leaned over to help, their fingers brushing briefly, sending a flush to her cheeks. "There, it's charging," he said, leaning back with a smile. The flight was long, and Christina tried to focus on her book, but when it slipped from her lap after a nap, he spoke. "Good read?" he asked, nodding at the novel. She laughed, embarrassed. "Maybe, but I'm not retaining much. Long trip." He extended a hand. "I'm Gabriel. Nice to meet you." "Christina," she replied, shaking it. Their conversation flowed effortlessly. Gabriel owned an indie bookstore in Miami, returning from a literary festival in San Jose. Christina shared hesitantly about her trip, her need to reconnect after a tough time. He listened without judgment. "You seem like you found something special," he said. "Not everything," she replied, "but I'm learning the right questions." He laughed, a sound that warmed the cabin. When they landed, he asked for her number. "I want to hear more about your adventure," he said, his smile hinting at more. Christina gave it, feeling a spark she hadn't expected. Back at her building in South Beach, a bouquet of sunflowers and chocolates waited, with a card from Jonathan. "Christina, please, let me fix this. I love you." For the first time, she felt no anger, just indifference. She placed the flowers in a vase, tossed the card, and moved on. Paul called soon after. "Jonathan's pushing for reconciliation, but the divorce papers are almost done." A text from Gabriel arrived. "Home safe? Want to grab dinner and talk Costa Rica?" Christina smiled, a certainty blooming. She texted Jonathan, "There's no going back. The trust is gone. I forgive you, but I want peace. Good luck." To Gabriel, she wrote, "Home safe. Would love to meet up and share more." With the ocean's hum in the background, Christina knew a new chapter was beginning, not just with Gabriel, but with herself, a woman choosing her own happiness. The Costa Rican sun rose over Manuel Antonio, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink that danced on the calm Pacific waters. Christina sat on the beach barefoot, toes buried in cool sand, her journal open, a pen twirling in her fingers. The wave's rhythm was a natural mantra, inviting her to lose herself in thoughts that, for the first time in weeks, didn't revolve around Jonathan or his betrayal. At 38, Christina felt she was unearthing a version of herself buried under years of duty, expectations, and a marriage that she now saw was never what she'd imagined. Costa Rica, meant as an escape, had become a pilgrimage to her own heart. In San Jose, her first days were a whirlwind of colors and sounds. She wandered through bustling markets, sampling tamales and exotic fruits that burst with unfamiliar flavors. The city's chaos, honking taxis, vendors calling out, was the opposite of her Miami apartment's stifling silence. At the pre-Columbian Gold Museum, she sat writing, "How did I stop hearing my own voice? When did I start living for others?" The words were raw, each one easing the weight she carried. In a renewal, a yoga retreat by the volcano taught her to breathe with intention, to let thoughts drift like clouds. Her mind kept revisiting Jonathan at Ocean Breeze, but slowly she found peace in the quiet moments. "You are not your thoughts," said an instructor, her English soft. "You are how you choose to respond." Those words became Christina's anchor. Hiking a rainforest trail, she met a group of women travelers. Lee, 29, from Shanghai, healing from a breakup. Emma, 47, an Australian keeping her independence, and others, each with stories of strength. They invited her to dinner under a starry sky, and over casado and guaro, Christina laughed freely. She shared her story, the betrayal, the note, the solo trip. Lee held her hand. "You're brave, Christina. You faced your pain and chose to rebuild." The words lit a spark in her. The group became her temporary family, exploring jungles, laughing through a botched cooking class, dancing at a festival with floating lanterns. In Manuel Antonio, the beaches offered peace. During a lantern ritual, she wrote, "I forgive myself for dimming my light. I love myself enough to shine." As the lantern soared, Christina felt lighter, starting a new relationship with herself. Back in Miami, the ocean's breeze swept through Christina's balcony, carrying the salt and a street musician's guitar. It was Sunday, and the sunrise painted the sky gold. Christina, coffee in hand, felt a sacred quiet, a hard-won peace. The divorce was final. Jonathan gone to Atlanta for his own fresh start. She'd forgiven him, not for him, but for herself, to shed the betrayal's weight. Gabriel had become a steady presence. Coffee in Coconut Grove, walks by the Venetian Causeway. He wasn't just the charming man from the flight. He listened, respected her pace, made her laugh. Christina, once afraid to open up, was learning love could be a choice, not a cage. That morning she thought of Gabriel's invitation from the night before. "I want to take you somewhere special tomorrow," he'd said, eyes sparkling. "Trust me." She'd laughed and agreed. Now dressing in a white linen blouse and flowing skirt, she felt excitement mixed with calm. She was whole no matter what came next. Gabriel arrived at noon in a beat-up Jeep, his easy grin lighting up his face. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked. Christina climbed in, teasing, "As long as it's not your Costa Rican ceviche." They drove up the overseas highway toward Key Largo, the turquoise water flashing through mangroves. "You taking me diving?" she asked, curious. He just smiled. They reached a quiet cove, where Gabriel pulled out a picnic basket. Christina raised an eyebrow. "Picnic in Key Largo? Bold move." He laughed, leading her to a secluded spot by the water, the horizon stretching endlessly. They spread a blanket, unpacking empanadas, iced tamarind juice and tropical fruits. "Trying to impress with simplicity," he said, winking. Christina grinned. "It's working." They talked effortlessly. Gabriel about a poet he was publishing, Christina about a community center she was designing in Little Havana. "You build things that last," he said, slicing a papaya. "More than that," she replied. "I want to build things that matter, that make people feel alive." He looked at her intense. "You do that, Christina, just by being here." As the sun set, painting the sky coral and violet, Gabriel took her hand. "I know you've been through a lot. I'm not rushing anything. But being with you feels like finding a book I didn't know I needed." Christina laughed, touched. "Always the book metaphors." She squeezed his hand. "I like being with you too, Gabriel. But right now, I'm learning to be me. I want you in that, but on my terms." He nodded, eyes warm. "Your terms." That night, back home, Christina got a call from Lee, arriving in Miami soon. "You'll show me salsa, right?" Lee asked, excited. Christina laughed, planning to take her to Little Havana, the Keys, a salsa night in Calle Ocho. Lee's visit brought new energy. They climbed to the top of the Key West lighthouse, ate conch fritters, and danced at a salsa club, Christina feeling more alive than ever. "You're glowing," Lee said over coconut water in South Beach. "It's not just Costa Rica or Gabriel, it's you." Christina smiled. "The light was always there, Lee. I just had to stop chasing shadows." A week later, Gabriel invited her to a gallery opening at his bookstore in Wynwood, showcasing local artists. The space buzzed with color and poetry, and Gabriel introduced her proudly. "This is Christina, the woman who's got me planning a Costa Rica trip," he said, making her blush. Later, by the bay, he held her hand. "I don't know what's next, Christina, but I want to be in your now." She looked at him, heart full. "I want you there too, Gabriel. But most of all, I'm walking with myself." That night, Christina opened her Costa Rica journal, penning a final line. "Some storms don't come to break you. They clear the path." She closed it, gazed at the ocean, and knew she was home, not in the apartment, but in herself. With Gabriel beside her and Miami's pulse around her, Christina was ready to live, not as someone's shadow, but as the light she'd always been. Hey everyone, how about joining our family and subscribing to the channel? It's an amazing way to support these stories that connect and inspire us. Leave a like to spread this good energy and tell me in the comments, what did you think of Lais's journey? From 0 to 10, what rating would you give it? We'd love to know.